I feel like everyone's most likely dealt with a compensation pattern before, whether it's through sports or exercise or an unfortunate accident leading to an injury. And then it's probably caused an additional injury on top of it, most likely due to not actually dealing with it in the moment. In this video, we're obviously talking about compensation mechanics and why it matters to understand them. Like I was saying before, if you've done a sports, injury, anything like that, especially if it's related to one limb to the next, you are most likely going to be compensating due to that injury or that sport mechanic. Great example, let's say you injured your ankle, you twisted it, sprained it, whatever. Now you're going to start overloading your opposite side due to limping. Now when you overload that other side, you're going to start causing a bit more stress and compression mechanics towards that leg. Now, even if it doesn't cause any pain in the moment, once you start feeling better on the injured side, the now overloaded side is gonna become a bit more injured. Or not even injured, but a bit more overused. Overuse injuries are pretty common for compensation mechanics. It's just a very common thing. It's just how our body reacts to this kind of mechanism. A great way to combat these compensation mechanics, usually I would say to go and get an assessment done by a physio, massage therapist, a chiropractor, to see what exactly is overcompensating. Because sometimes it isn't as easy as overloading a leg or overloading an arm. If the injury is on your trunk, if it's a pec injury, a back injury, glute injury, it's going to feel a bit more hidden than what you're kind of expecting. Now in this instance, you can test muscle activation, see which muscle is being affected, feels like it's strained, feels like it's a bit more raw, or even if there's any apprehension happening. So the lack of being able to fire it, not necessarily correctly, but can't fire it in a way that is going to allow for the movement that muscle controls. Once you figured out which is the dysfunctional muscle tissue, then we can start operating as to how we can make this muscle feel at ease enough to start doing its job again. Now, I'm not saying you have to hit this as hard as possible, but integrating a bit more light contraction isometric work is usually a good call. This can help reintegrating muscle activation. You could recruit more muscle fibers to cause a bit more of an equal pressure to this muscle. And then you could start loading the joint in which this muscle is in control of. Now, that's a lot of things, obviously, to think about. I don't necessarily think that too many people need to overthink about this stuff, but starting somewhere is better than ignoring it. Because again, if you ignore this kind of injury, it can start to injure the opposing side. So let's try to avoid this as best we can. Let's either go in for that assessment or do our own testing and assessing ourselves. Again, easy way to do this, we test the muscles that potentially are causing some sort of aggravation around either the joint or the actual muscle that is feeling dysfunctional. Once you kind of get an idea as to what you're doing here and understanding what is the cause of it, we now have to integrate our supporting muscles around that said muscle or around that said joint. I love using isometrics when it comes to acute injuries. It's just an easier way for your body to start getting more comfortable with activating the muscle around the joint or around the muscle tissue that is causing some sort of dysfunction. Once you start getting used to doing this, it becomes more comfortable, then we can start getting into more repped work, actually using the joint or the muscle, not necessarily full range of motion, but starting to add a bit more range in the dynamic movement that you might need. Whether that is just doing a bodyweight squat, doing a lunge, doing like a back extension or a spinal flexion, anything along those lines. But the whole idea is that we don't necessarily want to take away too much. We just want to regress a little bit so that we can progress later. This is probably one of the easiest ways, in my opinion, to make sure that we can get either back to sport, back to exercise as soon as possible. It's just modifications. We don't necessarily need to take things away. But I guess as a good example, I deal with a lot of powerlifters and Olympic weightlifters. I'm not going to say to a powerlifter, hey, you could still squat over 500 pounds with this knee injury, because you're going to overcompensate into the opposite knee and then potentially cause an even worse injury to that quote-unquote good knee, right? So regressing in load, regressing in reps, regressing in range of motion, these are all examples that can help to eventually get back into it. So again, you don't necessarily have to stop doing all your activities, but modifying and regressing where you can, using lots more isometric contractions, even integrating new things into your warm-ups prior to getting back under the bar, back into your sport. Now, if any of this information helped you whatsoever, feel free to share it, follow the page, give it a like, and I'll see you in the next one.